Yeah, I've just
Who
pressed
knows? I don't
record
care.
anyway,
It's just
so we'll fucking go for it, mate. Let's start every episode with that, just saying, let's press record and see what happens.
yeah, because that's basically it.
Yeah, that's the game, isn't it? That's the game.
Although I have just been brushing up on my aquatic ape theory.
Have you? Sick. I've been looking forward to getting educated, to be honest with you. Like I said the other day, I thought it'd be more entertaining for people to listen to if they were like learning along with me.
Like when JRE has a guest on and he like explains it and he's like, oh yeah, so how da, da, da. Yeah, it's more it's a better interaction, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
straight.
no expert. I've just watched a few like documentaries, but it's essentially an alternative to Darwin's theory, which is, of course, primates were in the trees, came down, became great apes, started to walk upright, became us. And then, different variants of the sort of Homo species went around the world and mixed with each other, etc., etc. Basically, it's kind of one of those weird ones, like where I think why it's not like a real mainstream theory or like taught in schools, I think is because of politics of wanting because Darwin's theory has been taught for so long now. It's kind of like they don't want to rip up the book again. But essentially it's just that lots of scientists have looked at Darwin's theory and picked loads of holes in it and said, well, actually, there's some really good evidence and loads of really good viable work he's done, of course, with like birds and fish and other animals, and there's loads of really interesting stuff. But in terms of humans and primates, a lot of it doesn't really add up. And so they started to pick apart that theory, and they were kind of like, okay, so what are the alternatives? And they started looking at different, like a lot's been made up of why we're similar to like primates and chimps and stuff. And we share like 90% of our DNA with them. But then they reel off all these things. Well, actually, we share 80% of our DNA with a cow, or 60% of our DNA with a banana. So it's if you don't really understand DNA, then it's very misleading. I mean, I don't really understand DNA, but in terms of how it's projected, is that the 10% that's missing is the really crucial bit, because they're the copies and the intricate stuff that actually makes us who we are, and not a banana.
Right.
But essentially, aquatic ape theory is a theory that humans came from the water, or from there's even some theories that they came from like underground civilizations, like the Grand Canyon. And there's I forget what they call this particular type of Indians that there's like a theory about that came from the Grand Canyon and from underwater civilization there in the caves and stuff. But I mean, there's loads of variations like of the aquatic ape theory and like different nuances of it and different ideas and things. But it's essentially the theory that we didn't come down from the trees. The reason why it essentially kind of concentrates on the differences between us and apes, rather than looking at all the similarities. And the differences are things like, apparently apes don't have breathing control, so they don't have voluntary breath control, so they literally can't sort of decide to hold their breath. So obviously they can't dive underwater and hold their breath underwater.
Stupid fucking chips.
I know, man, and that's why I can't teach them to talk as well. The idiots.
Yeah.
No, but bless them. And then they're talking about like the David Attenborough things where they show the only time when they stand up is when they go into water, and they do that kind of mad thing where they kind of awkwardly walking through the water.
That's a clip right there, mate. Oh, it's got us both now. Shit.
That was a Conor McGregor. But yeah, man, so it talks about that, and it talks about obviously us being naked, essentially, like having no fur, and saying how really we're a lot more similar to mammals, like dolphins, whales, seals, in a lot of our genetic makeup in terms of as well. Primates, none of the primates have like this section of fat in between like their tissues and their bones and the skin, whereas we have this like little layer of blubber like a seal does, or a dolphin does.
And
also that when human babies are born, they instinctively know how to hold their breath. So they can literally swim and hold their breath. Like, it's amazing. And we watch videos of human babies swimming. It's just weird. It's crazy.
So the theory basically posits that instead of being like, it's mad because that's kind of like a complete like contradiction of what we like know about human physiology and how we came about.
Yeah,
I can see why it's not like widely known. Well, I mean, it obviously is to a degree, but I can see why like someone like me probably hasn't done a lot of research into it, because it's a lot of effort. You know what I mean? It's like kind of rewriting everything we think we know about what it is to be human. Like,
well, there's an interesting part. Like, I was just listening to the documentary on it, and where there was the savannah theory, where part of apparently the reason why we thought humans walk upright is because they found schools in the savannah of all like the ancient descendants of humans, right? And they thought, well, the reason why they started walking upright was because they weren't in the trees anymore, so they were hunting on the savannah. And then reasons why they're saying basically having skin that sweats, we're the sweatiest animal in the animal kingdom, and that doesn't make sense if you're hunting on a savannah. And the counter argument to that is that that you need to be able to sweat if you're going to be chasing food for a long period of time. You need to be able to sweat so you can keep up with them and get rid of. So there's a counter argument to everything. So it's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like listening to what I've just listened to. There's aspects of the Darwin's theory that are absolutely still stand up, but there's aspects of it that don't stand up, but aren't necessarily talked about because it's the most accepted theory we have. But there are universities that are teaching the aquatic ape theory, and it is part of some of the syllabus, and it is part of obviously a lot of scientific research, but it's not become like massively mainstream because of the whole thing of rewriting the history books, essentially, which humans don't particularly like to do. I mean, and it's also accepting that we've got it so wrong as well, which is like humans don't really like accepting that we've got things massively wrong.
We also don't like hard work, man. Like, you've got to rewrite a lot of books.
Yeah.
You've got to restock a lot of libraries and shit. You know what I mean?
Exactly. The woman put it beautifully, actually. It's a Welsh woman that wrote this really, it was like the kind of come out book about aquatic ape theory in the 70s. And she was a Welsh housewife, as described by herself. And she said a lot of people kind of poo-pooed the idea because she wrote the book. And it was like she dreamt up this theory, but obviously she got the theory from all the scientific evidence. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of beside the point. But she's really funny. She put it in a funny way. She said a lot of people think about scientific evidence being built up like over years and years and years of building bricks on top of each other, and every scientist comes along and just puts that neatly on top of that brick and builds the evidence higher so that it kind of plateaus and then like, yeah, we've kind of learned everything we know. But so that now and again, to make really big steps and leaps, beyond that, what needs to happen is someone needs to come along and say, actually, that brick in the middle, I'm not sure about that one. The others are all in place, but there's a few there. What happens if I take those out? And the thing is, everyone's terrified of the whole tower falling down if you take those few out. And that creates a lot more work. And all those people perhaps think, well, all those years of research has kind of gone to waste.
Yeah, it's like intellectual Jenga, basically.
Basically. So it's really interesting, man. I mean, there's a lot of facets to it that I've not really explained there because I'm not nowhere near an expert. I've just watched a couple of bits and bobs, but I mean, there's some really far-fetched stuff of people saying like we had like mermaid civilizations and merman civilizations, and finding like remains of bones in the sea that they think belong to like merman and stuff. Like you can go as far-fetched with it or as like logical as you want with it.
I kind of like the idea
it's interesting.
I kind of like the idea that there was sort of a point where both of these theories were true. Like if they're going to be at odds with each other over like, oh, were we on the savannah, for example, and did we have to get upright? Well, yeah, maybe we did. I mean, there's like a lot of different kinds of human beings, and I've always kind of thought, well, surely there's got to be more than one origin story, you know? Like
Yeah, well, do you know what I learned from this? I wasn't expecting to learn this at all, actually, because the last documentary I watched on human civilization was that we all came from that one species, like in Africa, and then spread across the world. But then there's been lots of actually opposing theories saying that actually no, there was a different species in China and East Asia, and then there was also, I can't remember the Latin names for them, but there's different ones in Europe, etc. And then actually some of the ones from Europe went to Africa, and there was the interbreeding of all of them together. But apparently Africans have Homo erectus in them, which Europeans don't, and about 17%, I believe. And I think Southeast Asian people have, I can't remember the name for this one, but have about 12% or something of that one that Europeans don't. And we all know that Neanderthal, every human's got about 2 or 3% Neanderthal in them. And then there's another one that's in Europeans that isn't necessarily in everywhere else. I can't remember the Latin name for that. But point is that, yeah, it's not just one being evolved and mutated to all the different environments. There were different base species in the beginning of it all. Anyway, but the savanna theory, which is interesting, is that they disproved that theory because they found a new way to look at pollen and to basically get pollen samples and work out what plants it was related to and how that pollen would have worked within those different plants. And the reason they disproved the savanna theory was because they said it was actually from like forests and from jungle. You don't get those kind of plants in the savanna. So at that time when they found those skeletons, it wasn't savanna.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the most logical explanation for perhaps all of it is that there is probably a little bit of truth in both sides of it. And I think, if you look at humans these days, where, all the major cities pretty much are all set up around either rivers or they're set up around sea.
Yeah.
And humans are the only animal on land that can hold their breath, other than a seal and other mammals that can hold their breath for a long period of time underwater, don't have any hair and can swim very proficiently. And also, if you look at your hands, we've got slightly webbed hands and slightly webbed feet. Obviously some people more than others, but you can see aspects of that in yourself. Do you know what I mean? So, man, I think there's some very interesting bits at play in all the theories. It's just interesting stuff, man.
I mean, it's certainly interesting enough that we named a podcast after it. And
yeah,
I mean, to be clear,
it sounds cool as well.
There's not really many yeah, true. There's not many times that I want to kind of break the fourth wall a little bit and talk straight to the listener, but just to make it clear, this is not specifically an aquatic ape theory podcast. We're not evolutionary biologists.
No,
we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about some other shit for half hour. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting enough that where it fits in with our whole kind of manifesto in a way, which is we're trying to explore the mind, we're trying to explore the human being itself. And when you start thinking about these different origin stories, you kind of see where there's a bit of a path to really interesting conversations, because it's if this person started off as this thing all those millions and billions of years ago, how have we now got this huge diverse array of not just physical beings, but spiritual beings as well? Everyone's got so many different colors. There's so many different colors to the human race. Maybe that's a loaded word. Maybe I shouldn't use that word. But
colors in lots of ways, aren't they? Not just skin color, but in lots of ways.
I kind of meant more like the spectrum of experiences. The spirituality of the experiences. Everyone is so different, but we've all got that same 2 or 3% Neanderthal in us. You know what I mean? We've all got
there's a common factor in all of us.
Yeah, for the most part, we've all got lungs. all of our bodies need all of these things to survive, but there's so much like difference between every single like down to like the most minute perception of like the tiniest little detail in something. Everyone's got a different take on it, and everyone's
Yeah.
got a different story and a different journey. I think that's kind of where we found a lot of inspiration, really, not just in terms of like the music we do and shit, but just in terms of conversation. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe I've gone down a tangent there that's a bit off kilter, but I don't know. It seemed.
No, I think it's good.
Seemed nice to say.
I think it's good. I think that's right. I mean, it's the name of the podcast, or the band is kind of in line with the kind of things we want to talk about. We're just interested in everything, aren't we? You know, one of my favorite quotes, I can't remember who said it, is "I'm only interested in everything," and that's kind of how I feel. It's like everything's interesting, everything can be a conversation, and I mean, what better way to sort of start than where we started? I think what's so great though is that we don't know so much. Like, we have so many theories and hypotheses, etc., etc. But we don't actually know that much, and that's quite a beautiful thing. Is that there's still so much to find out, and also there's so much that we probably never will find out, and that's also quite a cool thing.
And do you know what else gets me as well? Like there's so much that we know, but we all have to agree that we know it. You know what I mean? We have to agree that like this thing here, that's how it is, and we all know that that's how it is, and we all agree to that. Okay.
Yeah, everyone... it's like there's comfort in that.
Yeah.
And it's like if you don't follow that path, then you're like a fringe nutter. And in fact, that's what that woman was saying about the aquatic ape theory. She's saying that, you know, is kind of viewed by a lot of people as like, if you believe in it, you're a fringe nutter. Everyone's like, oh, I like that theory, but I don't believe in it. And then it's like, oh, why don't you believe in it? Well, because nobody believes in it. And it's just like, oh, well, has there ever been a time where everybody's been wrong before? It's just like, yes, a lot of times. So we could be wrong in
shit. There's plenty of times every day when everyone's wrong about shit, you know.
Yeah,
everyone's wrong about everything every second of the time, man.
You know what? I'm changing my angle half through this because I feel like I'm gonna get a cramped neck, and I feel like I might have a better angle over here. So let's give this a go.
Yeah, man. I think this is all good content, though.
Well, it's like it's early days, you know what I mean. We're still trying to work out.
No, it's grassroots.
I think that's probably better because I can kind of talk to you and still be on mic. Then
it's like in a kitchen where like they don't chop the onions or like the peppers to look all fancy, and they're all like chunky and horrible, and they just say, "Oh, it's rustic."
Rustic. It's a rustic podcast.
It's a rustic podcast.
It's real.
Yeah, it's real, baby. I think that's kind of like the aim as well. Really, it's like, I mean, the mentality is just press record and see what happens. I think that kind of sums it up beautifully. That should be our like catchphrase.
That's the motto.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt.
This is the way. This is the way.
This is the way. Oh, how are you doing with the Mandalorian? Have you finished it yet?
No, I've only just started season 2.
Oh, okay.
So I believe I've got the context that you're on about, which is that it's like obviously set in the future.
Yeah. I think I'm not 100% sure. There's probably a lot of people online that could tell me differently, but I'm pretty certain it's set like maybe a few years after Return of the Jedi. Because those stormtroopers are like, what they're called, like the remnants or something. It's like what's left over of the Empire, and they're all sort of trying to grab power and shit. And it's I mean, it's got Werner Herzog as that. I'd love to try and do it.
Gus Frings.
Yeah, no,
from Breaking Bad. Is that? I don't know his name.
No, that's
his actual real name.
That's Giancarlo Esposito. He's an amazing actor, mate. He's absolutely incredible. As you know, I've not watched much Breaking Bad, so I couldn't tell you much about Gus, but he's a great actor.
He's one of the best characters of all time. This is what Gus is.
He's one of the best characters in The Mandalorian, mate, as well. Moff Gideon.
Yeah, And Moff Gideon, yeah, I'd forgotten his name, so I'm glad you reminded me of that. Moff, because like, yeah,
Moff.
we've had plenty of Darths, we've not had any Moths yet.
Well, Moff is
Um,
Moff is like a military position.
okay,
So there,
actually, an acronym for something.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I just know it's a military position that they can rise to. Because in A New Hope, there was Grand Moff Tarkin,
Right, right.
and he was the guy that was played by Peter Cushing. But I'm getting into nerding out on Star Wars, mate. To be honest with you, like, it's funny. I'm not even the biggest Star Wars fan per se, but I seem to know a shitload about it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Do you know, it's a brilliant. Do you know what's been amazing is not watched it for so long.
Mm.
Like literally since I'd never seen any of the new ones other than the originals, as you know, until recently, and then just watching all 11 of them back to back over a few weeks, and now I like in the right order for the first time, and then now completely understanding the story, whereas before it's always seemed so fragmented and sort of sometimes the narrative's been hard to follow. And I'd say to anybody that feels like that about it, just to watch them in that order, and it's just really easy to follow.
Yeah.
And what an amazing universe. I mean, or galaxy, should I say?
It's a beautiful thing, man. Like the way that it's just sort of. I always love it when they can like write a film or like a TV show or like even a video game where like everything that you need to know about like this universe is all in the context. You know what I mean? It's a lot of contextual storytelling. So just where they sort of even them shots where they go into like a bar or something and there's all these like different kind of critters and aliens running around and you're like, all right, where are you from? You know what I mean? Like there's so much. It's such like a dense and like rich universe. But that kind of pisses me off in a way though, because it's like there's obviously so much going on here. But yet when we watch these films, we only ever see what happens to this one family.
I know what you mean. I want to kind of find out more about all these different species and how did they come to be and what are they called.
Yeah. I mean that's kind of why the Mandalorian's so good, to be fair, because it you know it's its own separate story and it's very, you know, it's pretty self-contained, but there's little whispers of stuff, you know what I mean, like little nods to the fact that you're still in that Star Wars universe and you're still
I know what you mean.
You're still in that particular toy box, you know what I mean.
Yeah, because like, so you never hear of the Mandalorian at all, do you? In any of the films, not in my memory. You don't. You know, they're nothing. You know, you see bounty hunters that kind of dress similar, but I never came across the Mandalorian word in any of those films.
Well, so
it's a new aspect.
It's all kind of. So there's like Star Wars that we know in the films, and then there's like a huge sort of extended universe where it's like comics and books and like other TV shows and you know, some of it's canon, some of it isn't, but I think that's kind of what they did with the Mandalorian. In a way, they sort of took a few things from a few places. Like I think that like crazy, what's it called, the dark saber or something, I don't know if you've seen him with that you've got to the end of season 1, you say?
Yeah.
So is he like?
Yeah, finished season 1.
Yeah, cool. So that bit at the end where he like cuts out of that crashed ship thing with the sword.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, that's from. I think that as far as I know, anyway, that's something from one of the cartoons.
Is that what they're calling it? The dark saber.
Yeah, that might be a spoiler though. You know, just for the sake of the internet, spoilers for the Mandalorian. We've already said all of them now, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Fuck you, man. It's been out for like a year anyway, so whatever. If you weren't gonna watch it by now, you know you would have watched it.
Yeah. Oh, it's good though, man. It's very, very good.
It's a really good show. It's a really good show. Like the budget that they've thrown at that show.
Yeah.
Like,
and the first thing that struck me is wow, like the quality of filming is actually better on this than it is in any of the films. That's the first thing that actually struck me out of the box. It was like it has like another layer of shine to it, if you know what I mean.
I mean, it's like
Yeah.
with a show like that, if you're going to do a Star Wars show, you know, like these Marvel films and stuff, like they do like Marvel TV shows, or like they did on Netflix anyway, and it was kind of like a bit easier to do because it's like New York, you know, you can easily film in New
Yeah.
York, easy, and then you just got to kind of like rig fight scenes or whatever. But Star Wars, there's nowhere to hide. You can't just go and film in New York. It's so like different to everything that we can conceive in our universe. Like everything flies there. They're going between different planets like that. Apparently,
Yeah.
you have to have a huge budget to do that show. You've got to have a lot of fucking money to make that right.
Yeah. The CGI is just the yeah.
Oh, it's
Because
beautiful.
I was actually thinking, it is amazing, isn't it? It's like
Beautiful.
it is really gorgeous. Yeah, I was actually thinking about how they filmed it the other day, just because I was thinking about how they're going to make the third Mandalorian season if we're still in this sort of situation, and I was thinking, yeah, I bet a lot of it is done with green screens and studios, and I mean, it's obviously they use the desert a lot because I forgot the name of it, but that planet where everything seems to go down, which is like the desert planet, that's the one.
Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying, man. Like so many different planets and star systems and shit, and it's always fucking Tatooine.
Always. And I think
I
that's just because you can just go to like the Sahara or something, or and you're there. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's probably like the most low budget scene they do. So let's try and get a few of those in there if we can.
You know, there's that one place where he actually gets the child from, and I think it's where he goes and it's where he has that big like fight or something in it with the robot, like the spinny gun robot.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah.
Spinny gun robot.
Call him that. He's wicked. But when he becomes a nurse bot and he's like,
yeah, he's wicked.
The baddest nurse bot ever.
Like most of those towns and shit are like pure CGI, bro.
That's pretty amazing, isn't
it? Like them big like wide shots that you see, it's like pure CGI. It's amazing, and it looks so real, bro.
It does, man. Like, you know, even like the characters, like, you know, the guy that says this is the way, not this is no, the guy that says I have spoken. Like, he looks so real. I feel like he's not CGI. I feel like he's a real thing, but he's obviously CGI. Do you know what I mean?
He's your favorite, isn't he?
He's my favorite. He's absolutely my favorite character.
He's a fucking legend. I have spoken.
I'm not when he died, man. I was That's a spoiler alert. Yeah, I was heartbroken, man.
We keep saying spoiler alert after we drop the spoiler.
Way after the spoiler. So at this point, yeah, they've spoiled it for everyone.
Like I said, if they were going to watch it, they would have watched it by now.
Yeah. Plus, there'll only be about 49 people who watch this anyway.
Yeah.
And that's probably like us repeating views again and again. Friends and family.
Sure, man. Don't tell them. I'll be interested to see how many views are actually on that one. I'm just going to quickly, just for the jokes of it. Let's have a quick look. AQUATIC APE. Oh, 51, mate.
Crept up. So they were all in that the first day.
Yeah, man.
Wait till it's on 50 million. 51 million, mate. It will be soon. JRE will be he'll be asking us to come on his show. And
we'll be having a fucking Spotify will want to deal with us, mate, I tell you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I think audio is the next way to go, to be fair. I need to figure out how to get the audio done from this. Because it records Zoom's amazing, bro, if you think about it, because it records.
It is really good.
It records the audio, and it actually like saves them as two separate audio files, so like your end and then my end.
Really?
Yeah, man, it's really clever shit. I'm gonna have to sort that out so we can get these up on the streaming services, because the thing with YouTube is that like most people don't really want to pay for that YouTube Premium that lets you like turn your phone off and still listen.
Yeah.
So like I found
you know what? There is a way though, and this is how I listened to that AQUATIC APE thing today when I was having a workout. at least with my phone. Well, in fact, I'll tell you two top tips, YouTube hacks right here. Right.
Here we go.
We'll get this podcast taken down for this.
We got another clip going on.
Right. So on my phone, at least, if I press play on it and then press the like power off button, it will turn off. But then it then locks, doesn't it? Your phone locks. If you then press the power on button, it comes up with like a play button for the YouTube, like a little icon. If you press that, it plays in the background, and then press the power off button again, put it in your pocket, you sound.
Yeah, see, mine don't do that, bro. I've got an iPhone.
Oh, sad.
Yeah.
Well, any of you Androiders out there. However, I do have another way that worked for me, at least on my last Android phone. I downloaded like an ad blocker search engine, like a variant of like Firefox or whatever. So I downloaded it just as like an app or whatever. And then whenever I went on the internet with that, I could watch YouTube. I could just, turn my phone off and it would continue in the background. If I did it on Firefox or any of the other internet providers or whatever you want to call them, it wouldn't, it turns off as this stereotypical thing. But if you do it on the ad blocker, Internet Explorer or whatever, it seemed to work.
They should just let you be able to do it. I don't see why I should have to pay like, I don't even know how much it is, like 12 quid a month or something, just to be able to pause it, or like not have it pause when I turn it off.
It's a lot of money to pay.
It's ridiculous, mate. It's ridiculous for the only thing that I'm going to use it for. You know what I mean? That's the only reason that I'd even consider going near that premium membership, just so I could do that. It's not worth the money, mate. Tell you what, Spotify are on the ball, bro. And what's the other one? Amazon. They're both fucking great. The only reason I favour Spotify is because it's got like Joe Rogan on there, baby. But to be fair, I've been paying for Spotify for years now, anyway. So
yeah, man. I kind of have Spotify envy, I'll be honest, because I have Amazon Music because it's £2 cheaper a month for me because I've got Amazon Prime and whatever, so it's like $7.99. So I was like, it's basically the same thing. I may as well just save a couple of quid a month. And I mean, I love Amazon. I've not got a bad word to say about it. It's not done anything wrong, but it's one of those things where like everyone I know seems to be on Spotify, and I know you can like share playlists with each other. Do you know what I mean? A bit more effectively, whereas no one seems to on Amazon that I know. So it's like I share, and it's like they can't click on it and just listen to it, or they send me songs from Spotify and I can't just click on it and listen to it.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
So that's a bit, yeah, man. But
it's just come on, man. Like, just let him have a listen. That's all I say. Just let him have. Dad, do you know what I'll do instead, bro? I'll send you a YouTube link. So there you go. It's come fucking full circle, hasn't it?
Yeah, as
send you a YouTube. Tell you what, mate. I'm gonna get that premium subscription. I'm gonna bite the bullet. Bite the bullet. You know what? I'd consider doing an Aquatic Ape playlist for us on Spotify.
Yeah, man.
Get some of our favorite tunes in there.
Have you seen like I think I sent it the other day, like Bonobo? There's these called like Friday night sessions or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're getting like well-known artists to like make a playlist of their like 20 favorite tracks and whatever, or sometimes it's just 10. Like I listened to Bonobos the other day. That was really, really interesting mix of stuff. And Crambin did a good one as well. Yeah, it's interesting listening to your favorite band's favorite songs. Do you know what I mean?
They're a strange band, Crangbin are.
They're amazing.
They are. They're absolutely incredible. It's just like watching them. You sort of like.
Oh, they're very strange. I did a bit of what I was reading of. Some reading on Cranbrook. No, I watched a few documentaries and then just interviews of them. Really, they're more weird and interesting than you think, right? Because the wigs, the hair isn't real for a start.
Yeah.
It's that, and I mean, they had me kidded. You know, I watched like loads of their things and I thought, yeah, they've just got that weird fringe cut on lock, like, and they've done it on purpose. That like obviously there's the lead singer and the bassist, which are like blatantly together. At least it seems like it from their body language on interviews and stuff. And then they've got the black guy, obviously not wearing a wig.
Yeah,
and
he's
he's a
bizarre,
wicked
mate.
drummer.
Like, he's bizarre how good he is.
Well, do you know what's really this is what's weird about that band, right? So a little backstory on them. Basically, the drummer and the lead guitarist used to go to like gospel church together in Texas, right? And they were both drummers, or he used to play keys or something. I think the guitarist used to play keys and the drummer used to play drums at church. So they met at church, at gospel church, and then the drummer actually quit playing drums for a while because he said everyone in Texas was just amazing at playing drums, apparently. So he stopped playing drums, and then they got back together because the guitarist met the bassist through a friend, and the bassist, she basically walked into this house, and the guitarist has just sat there, and he's watching a documentary on Afghanistani traditional music, and she's like, "Oh my God, who else in this universe will be watching a documentary on Afghani music right now? Because that's exactly what I've just been watching, and these last few weeks." So anyway, they had this like mad connection over like Afghani music, and then they transpired they both love like really alternative types of music and this, that, the other. And then yeah, they just sort of he calls his mate up who used to be a drummer from church, and then they get together as a band. But what I found interesting, like they go through the whole process of how they record music and stuff, and it's just so simple. Like all they do, they get the drummer records a riff, just a really, because he's so simple. His drums are so simple, but he's so tight. Like it sounds like just a machine's doing it. So he would just send the bassist a drum pattern of him just riffing along, playing drums, and then the bassist will just riff the bass along to the drums, and then they send it off to the lead guitarist who makes it the finished product. So it's just drums, bass, guitar, and then just those kind of vocals that they have now and again.
That's all she
Yeah,
goes.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I love those ones. But it's either like sometimes you'll have a song that's got like about 3 or 4 words in and some harmonies, like some nice harmonies, or it's just like, yeah, these weird little like yeah, they're great. They're my top 5 favorite bands. They're
they're
just
great, man. There's
unbelievably good.
There's an EP that they did with Leon Bridges.
Yeah, it's very good. Texas Sun.
Yeah, it's fantastic, yeah. Bro. Absolutely,
yeah, it's very good.
Amazing little EP that they've done there.
It's very good.
Leon Bridges is an absolute gem. Like he really is a gem. Very, very talented guy.
He is. He's very, very good. Very, very good. Skeeny sent me one of his songs the other day. Actually, he's a real big fan of him, and I can't remember what it was called now, but it was something I'd not heard from him before, and it was incredibly good. Incredibly good. Yeah, I like him a lot. I've always liked him. So him and Cram been working together is a bit of like a marriage made in heaven.
Right, sure. It's that all the Texans in the same room, innit, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, man, they're so cool, man. Do you know, like Crambin's like such a weird name, innit? It's like such a weird word. It's actually like Thai for something or other. Can't remember what it means in Thai, but
no, literally means like, something or other.
In Thai, yeah, probably. Yeah, I literally don't know what it means, but yeah, they're just one of those. It's one of them I really enjoyed listening to their interviews and finding out just like a little bit behind the people that make the music and their taste and their kind of alternative taste that they've got. They're really interesting people.
No, man, they're like very, very tight band. That's one thing that it always gets me like. It's so like that's like you said, it's so simple and straightforward, but it's just so like clean and tight and like well executed. You just can't help but be impressed by it. You know what I mean? It's
just do you know who's the drums are like wickedly simple. The bass is just on point. It's just what it needs to be. But the like real star of the show is just that lead guitarist, man. Like he's incredible, man. Like Like I don't know how many albums they've got now, like 5 albums or something. They're all like slightly different, and the thing is, they're so distinctive as well. Like as soon as Crumbin comes on, I'm like, yeah, that's Crumbin. Like a lot of the time, I'm like 1,000 songs on my chill playlist. Like I have to look. Oh, that's really. Oh, what's that tune called again? Who's that? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's that guy or it's that woman. Da, 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 it was that band. With them, it's like every time. Oh, it's Crumbin. I just have to check what song it is.
So same with Skin Shape. You always know when Skin Shape's on.
Yeah, see, they're the only, and they're quite similar to Crumbin, I'd say.
Yeah,
They're the next, I don't know, they're just very similar, but perhaps a little bit more varied than Crumbin. But like I said to you, I think if I had to listen to one band for the rest of my life, like if you said, like, you can only listen to this band for the rest of your life, I'd pick Skin Shape.
Yeah, or strong moves, man. Choice. Strong move. That's a really good pick. You're gonna have a really good life. What would your pick be?
Oh, that's what I think. Yeah,
that's a hard one, mate. That's a real rough one. You know what? Like, I've got to go with like what came in my head first of all, and I've just got to say Pink Floyd. I think because that was the first thing that came in, and that probably means it's right.
Probably does.
I think Pink Floyd.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's easily like. I don't know, man. My favorite band or musician changes every week, but yeah, I think Pink Floyd are pretty consistently like number one for me. Just like such an incredible band.
They're pretty revolutionary, weren't they, at the time, especially? Like,
incredible. They were like really. There's so many different stories of Pink Floyd. Like, which one do you tell? Do you tell the insanely talented but incredibly flawed human beings, or do you tell like the people who wrote the beautiful songs about like time and like growing older and like knowing that things have got to come to an end, and like putting it in this like almost like sarcastic, like British way of being pessimistic. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. There's so many different stories you can tell about Pink Floyd, and there's so many different versions of them that you can talk about that it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, man.
But to be fair, I don't know. It's a weird thought, but like, if I had never listened to Dark Side of the Moon, would I be the musician I am today? That's a weird thought, because it kind of like set the tone for me a lot of what I thought my version of music is and should be. Like I think we spoke about this before, where it's like, as a musician, I'm kind of trying to explain to you, the listener, that this is what I think music is. I'm trying to tell you what music is by performing it or like writing it in a certain way. And I think that kind of like educated and like that particular album, like really informed my version of music. And what kind of musician I wanted to be.
What age were you when you listened to Dark Side of the Moon?
I want to say I was about like 11 or 12. Probably been playing guitar a couple of years at that point. I mean, like, I listened to mostly my dad's music when I was younger anyway. I mean, though obviously I had my little Percy's, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's mostly listening to my dad's music. I mean, she was amazing, to be fair.
First single that you bought?
First single that I bought? Jesus, I can't remember, bro. Yeah, it might have been...
first album.
The first one I remember was... probably the first album I bought was 5. Can you remember 5?
Time to get up now. Is that them?
1, 2, 3, 4. 5 will make you get. Yeah, man.
That's it, isn't it?
Wow. It was sick. And like I had this album of theirs, and like every time we went anywhere, I demanded it was going with us, because I was a fan, bro. I was a fan. And like we went to the Lake District once. like a little family holiday in Ting and Ting and Ting. I left it behind. So I took the case with me, but I left the CD in the CD player that was in like the little like apartment or whatever it is that we were staying in.
Yeah.
I was absolutely like devastated, mate. Absolutely devastated. And then my mum went and bought me a copy, like to make up for it. And then I think a few days later, the place that we were staying at, they sent it to us. Like they sent it from the CD player and sent it over to us. So I had two copies of the album, mate. Wow. I was absolutely over the moon. That meant that.
And that's how you started DJing.
That's how I started DJing, bro. I was beat matching 2 songs by 5 at the same time. You know, if you beat match 2 songs by 5 at the same time, are you actually playing a song by 10?
Maybe.
we can stop recording, mate. That's as good as it's gonna get tonight. Quick one. I don't want to like derail things too much, or do I? I just got sent an interesting thing by my boy Steve, who's like another UFC fan. Hamzat Chimaev. He's posted a thing on Instagram. It just says, "Surprise, surprise! I'm coming back to smash everybody."
He's never leaving, man. Like,
of course he fucking wasn't.
I didn't buy that for a second, man. He just spat his dummy out for a second, man.
I think that's
I can't do what I want. I can't fight. Yeah. It's not fair.
That's why Dana didn't want to do anything about it. He was just sort of like
chill out, Hamzat. Lie down for a bit, mate.
Yeah.
Chill out. The doctors have told you need to relax for a bit. I know you're a maniac.
Yeah,
right?
It's savage.
Just go and take some Valium or something and just chill out for a bit, mate.
Get some vitamin D, don't you?
Yeah, he's a crazy guy. I think he's gonna be a problem for everybody at welterweight and middleweight, though. I really do.
I want to see it now. I want to see that. I either want to see the Edwards fight. I mean, when it's appropriate, or I'd quite like to see him against Kevin Holland. I mean,
well, that was the fight that was naturally building, because they were like, do you hear that thing where Kevin Holland was like, oh, they ran into each other in the hallway and they've been beefing back and forth, because those two were last year the 2 breakout stars, right? So they were kind of jealous of each other in one sense, that Hamzat didn't want Holland to steal all his fame, and then Holland's like, well, I've won 5 fights, you've only won 3 or whatever, like I'm the dog, do you know what I mean? So yeah, and they're both crazy. So
I feel like if Hamzat didn't get COVID, he probably would have won 5 fights, because he got it. Did he get it towards like September? No, it was like December.
I think it would have been 4, because I think he would have fought Edwards and then.
Oh, do you think he would have beaten Edwards? Yeah.
I don't know, but he would have fought him. I think he might have beaten Edwards, because I think he's a better wrestler. In fact, I'm going to put it out there and say, yeah, I think he beats Edwards. From what I've seen, thing is, you have to be careful with these things, because we've only seen him against like not even top 15 guys. So you have to say, where's the level? But he's looked so much better than these guys that you have to envisage he might be a top 5er. So on instinct, I'm thinking maybe does he? Yeah, he probably does beat him. But I wouldn't be surprised if Edwards beat him at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Because he's more experienced. I think what's interesting about that fight is they're both like the same size. Like they're both like 6'2", which is massive for a welterweight. They both got like 75-inch reaches. They're very well matched physically.
So like that fight, I'm thinking if it's under 2 rounds, that's Hamzat's fight. But if it's over 2 rounds, then yeah, I think that's going to go to Edwards, because Edwards doesn't really finish fights. He's not a finisher. He wins. He mostly wins by decision.
Yeah, I feel like Hamzat's got stamina for 79 days though. I feel like when he works out, he's nuts, mate. I've watched some of the videos and he goes in like he's like something else. Like he's a man possessed. So I feel like he's not getting tired. And I feel like with that fight, I think whilst on the feet, it's pretty even. But if Hamzat can get him down, then it's smash time. Do you know what I mean?
And you think I think he could get him down quite easily.
Yeah.
Edwards' takedown defenses and all that strong. Like, no disrespect to Edwards, because I like him, and there's a little bit of me that sees the British guy and he's like, yeah, come on, England, but like,
yeah.
I've always kind of had
he's well rounded.
He's well rounded, but I've had a bit of a weird relationship with like Leon Edwards, to be honest with you.
Same.
I really like him, and I think he's a cool guy, but I actually sometimes I wonder to myself, like, how are you number 3? You know what I mean?
Well, it was there deservingly, because he went on a tear and he was just beating guy after guy after guy after guy after guy, and he was kind of the guy like that probably should have been there almost before he was. Do you know what I mean? And he was kind of saying, look, I've won 8 fights in the UFC. But then the last guys he beat, I think he beat Donald Cerrone, he beat Dos Anjos, he beat Gunnar Nelson, was it?
Was it Gunnar Nelson?
Yeah, it was. On the Darren Till Masvidal card.
Yeah.
So he beat him. I think they're the 2-3 best guys he's beat. I'm not sure who else he's beat that's in like the top 10. For me, Dos Anjos was never a welterweight anyway. He's like 5'8".
How many of those guys did he win by decision though? Because that's one thing that worries me.
I mean, he finished Gunnar, because Gunnar's my boy, and I remember feeling sorry for him. Don't think he finished as many. He generally goes like 5 rounds or 3 rounds and gets over a decision.
I heard I was listening to him on Joe Rogan the other day actually, and he was saying that, like, before, when he got into the octagon, he was never looking to. The only thing he was concerned with was winning, and he said, like, since he's not fought in over 2 years. I mean, this was after the Muhammad fight as well, with the eye poke and everything. He was saying now he's out there in the octagon to try and hurt people. That's his concern now. He wants to hurt people rather than like just thinking about winning. He wants to really cause damage. Okay. And I'm like, does that mean that we're going to start seeing him go a bit more wild with shit? And does that mean that we're going to potentially see a couple more knockouts from him?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I think he's got power, but I'm not sure he's the most explosive guy out there. So I'm not sure just because his mentality changes if he suddenly becomes a knockout artist. But maybe if he does start more forward pressure, maybe he could be. I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. Do you know what I found really interesting about Khabib? It made me like Khabib even more the other day. I was watching something on it, and he was analysing the Conor McGregor fight, and he was saying in all of his fights, he never wanted to hurt any of his opponents. He just wants to get them down to the ground, smash them, beat them, or submit them. But he didn't want to hurt them. He just wants to beat them. Do you know what I mean? But it was like with Conor, he wanted to hurt him.
Yeah,
and that was like his mistake. And it was interesting because you don't hear that from a lot of MMA fighters. Do you know what I mean? That they don't want to hurt their opponents. A lot of the time they're like, talking a lot of stuff. I want to do this, I want to do that. And that just made me think, do you know what? Yeah, that's actually the mixed martial arts way. It's not about wanting to go in there and hurt people. It's about wanting to go in there and show your skills off. Show you the better mixed martial artist, but you don't go in there wanting to hurt people. That's like a cage fighter mentality. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and I know they're fighting in the cage, but that's why I guess I always gravitate towards the guys that are more like, they don't want to see the guy get hurt. They just want to beat him in there, and that's it.
Yeah, that's because he even said that after the Gaethje fight, didn't he? Where he was like, I didn't want to break his arm in front of his parents, so I just put him to sleep instead.
Yeah, he knew he wouldn't tap. Yeah.
So
do you know what? He broke down that fight really interestingly with this other like Dagestani reporter, and he was basically said, I don't feel like I beat Gaethje physically. It was all mental. And if you watch the fight, it's true what he says. Like he just walks him down, and he's like, nobody walks Gaethje down. Like Gaethje walks you down. Do you know what I mean? And because that first round, like he was taking shots from Gaethje, like he was taking some big leather off him, and he just sort of said, well, I looked him in the eyes and sort of said, is that all you've got? And then started landing a couple of kicks and this, that, himself. And obviously, because he's a wrestler, it's like when he saw that actually, well, that hurt him a bit. He was like, yeah, see, I got you, kind of pointing to him. And then he felt that by the second round, when he got him down, that Justin didn't even really resist to getting submitted. And I felt it was almost a bit of like it was a beautiful transition from Khabib. So you've got to take that into consideration. But I didn't feel like there was the most struggle from Gaethje in that position. I felt like I was going to see more from him, like more heart from him. And I think he's perhaps did break him mentally. And he said he felt the energy in there. Like he felt he'd given up before he'd submitted him. Do you know what I mean? Which was interesting.
Yeah. It was a funny fight, to be fair. Like, not funny, It was an interesting fight, I should say, because for weeks leading up to it, I'd heard nothing other than like Gaethje's takedown defense is like the only potential answer to Khabib, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I love Gaethje. Like, I really, really do. He's probably one of my favorite guys in that division. I kind of think it's a bit of a travesty that Chandler's getting a title shot before him, but we'll get to that in a second, I guess. I just, you know what? Like, when it comes to when Gaethje was versus Ferguson, I was like, that's Gaethje all day. Like, Gaethje versus Poirier, I thought Gaethje was going to win it. I was backing him like 100%, and you know, Poirier got the better of him. Just about got the measure of him.
Poirier's a dog, man.
Poirier's so
he's
underrated.
the most underrated guy, you know.
Yeah, I've underrated him a lot as well.
So have I. He'd give Khabib the hardest time out of anybody, by the way.
Yeah,
he nearly submitted him.
Yeah, of course he did. Khabib went like purple for a sec.
It was close, man. It was close. Yeah. And Matt, people forget he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's just because I think Poirier is so humble. He doesn't really shout about himself at all.
No.
You forget how good he is almost. And he's got the dog in him. Like, he can have a tear up in a phone box with you as well.
No.
Like, look what he did to Max. Everybody, it's like, look how good Max is. But it's like, yeah, but Poirier's beat Max twice at different stages of his career.
Poirier has caused serious problems for some of the best fighters in the whole company, if you think about it. Like,
yeah, I mean, he is one of the best in the whole company. And what's weird about that whole situation, right, is that, like, I remember when Poirier beat McGregor and they was asking him, will he fight? Like, Dana wanted to make him and Chandler for the title because it made sense. Chandler just knocked out Hooker in spectacular fashion on the undercard. He's the Bellator champion. He was the backup fighter for the last championship fight. It's a viable option. The fans would have been excited by that. But he's like, no, I'm not fighting this guy. Like, this guy doesn't deserve it. And I'm like, wow, I completely understand where you're going with that, right? I completely get it. Because you've had 20, 30 fights in the UFC. This whole thing is paid in full, blood, sweat, and tears. I totally get it. But at the same time, that's an opportunity for him to win the belt and then have the Conor rematch when he's got the pay-per-view champion points. Conor gets to fight for the belt. It's kind of a win-win for everybody. But I think one of the reasons why I didn't want to take that fight is because Chandler's so damn dangerous. And in actual fact, Chandler is the one guy above anybody that I wanted to see face Khabib, because I feel like he's the only guy that's got a really good offensive wrestling. And we've never seen anybody put it on Khabib offensive wrestling wise. Not to say Chandler necessarily would have, because he might have gone, well, I know how good Khabib is. But what my point is that everybody's also scared of what's coming at them from Khabib's wrestling that makes his striking more dangerous. Where if somebody's got absolute confidence in their wrestling, that they're just thinking, well, if you go for me, I might go for you. And he's so powerful at 55, Chandler. We saw what he did to Hooker.
Yeah.
He's such a dangerous guy, man.
He like Spartan kicked him across the octagon at a certain point. It was amazing.
Man, he's a bulldog. Like, I think he's got the nickname Iron Mike Chandler, and he's got that Iron Mike head movement where he kind of ducks under stuff and just wheels those massive punches over. And I mean, Oliveira is really talented, and I'm really interested for that matchup because you've kind of got traditional American wrestling with the big looping, banging strikes against technical striking and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's a brilliant stylistic matchup. Who's going to win that? Bigger, taller guy, rangy guy against a little pocket rocket in Chandler. There's so many, facets to that fight that make it interesting.
I just,
And
I completely agree, and it's going to be an amazing fight, but it's not the fight that the division deserves. You know what I mean?
see,
Like,
I understand that, but I think they've done the right thing considering
well, no,
the
they haven't though,
landscape.
really. Like, where's Gaethje?
They
Because
have. Gaethje doesn't deserve. Let's be honest, right? Gaethje, you don't get a title fight on the back of the loss that he had to Khabib.
but
He needs another win.
he was still interim champion though, wasn't he?
No,
Surely he
as soon
was.
as you lose, soon as you lose in the championship fight, you're not interim champion anymore. You lose that belt because
I
you're
don't know,
fighting
man.
for the undisputed.
I feel
Yeah,
like
no,
I feel like if Poirier wanted to chase this McGregor fight, then
it was all on Poirier. It was all on Poirier.
yeah,
Poirier had the cards, right? So it was either Poirier against. It should have been Poirier against Oliveira because that was Oliveira's the guy that's been in the UFC for time. He's put together a good win streak, and then you've got the most deserving guy in the division is Poirier. And if you're going to pick anybody as second, it's Oliveira because Gaethje's just lost. So typically you don't get to fight for the title straight away after you've just lost. You have to win at least one more fight against a top 5 guy, usually 2, sometimes 3, to get yourself back in that title picture. So you've got Poirier against Oliveira.
But the thing is like, yeah, completely agree. Like, Poirier is really the one to blame for all of it because he wants to chase that Conor money. But Mike Chandler's beat a rank 4. I think he was rank 4.
Like rank 6.
Yeah, no, Dan Hooker was rank 4.
6 was like no, it's rank 6. It wasn't even rank 4. It was rank 6.
I thought it was 4.
Yeah. No, it was
I could have sworn he was 4.
Because Hooker lost to Poirier.
Yeah.
And then the other top 5 was like Ferguson, McGregor, Poirier, Gaethje. It might have been 5, maybe. It might have been 5. But the fact is, I think
it was 5.
It's not that Chandler necessarily deserves the shot. There's loads of reasons to say he doesn't deserve the shot. He's just come to the UFC. He's only had one fight. He only beat a rank 5 guy or whatever. It's just the landscape of how it's. I think the UFC have gone, right, well, we've offered the Chandler fight to Poirier. He's turned it down. Then I don't know whether they offered the Oliveira fight to him or not. But perhaps by that point, they've already decided, well, Poirier wants the McGregor fight. So that's kind of, he's off the table. And then they tried to offer the Chandler Oliveira fight as a non-title fight. Oliveira turned it down. So I read. So then their only option is, well, we'll make it for the title because we've got Gaethje, who we don't really know what to do with at the moment. They could have, the other option, I guess they could have made maybe Oliveira Gaethje, and then they could have made like Chandler and another top 5 guy, and then the winner fights for title. But I think they just wanted to kind of be like, no, let's get this situation resolved now. Khabib's retired now, so now we need to get that vacant belt sorted out. The 2 most impressive guys right now, other than Poirier, is Oliveira and Chandler from the last performances. They're both amazing. So let's just whack him in there. Who everyone's kind of hating on a bit, but he's a 2-time Bellator champion, and I think he's an incredible fighter. When I saw him in Bellator, I was like, why is this guy not in the UFC, man? Like, this guy is going to cause a lot of guys trouble. So personally, as a fan, I'm like politically, it's not the right thing that should have happened. It should have been Poirier against Oliveira, but it didn't happen. Now we've still got a really amazing fight in Chandler against Oliveira. I'm personally really excited for Chandler because I think he's a guy that could maybe hold the belt for a while. Or Oliveira could. Like, they're both, I'm not sure who's going to win that fight. I see ways they could both win it. But if I have to pick one, I think Chandler, because I think he's got more ways I can see him winning that fight, because I think he can win by knockout, whereas I'm not sure Oliveira can beat him by knockout. Maybe he can, but he's not a knockout artist. But you never know what could happen. I see the jiu-jitsu and ground game of Oliveira not working on Chandler the way it worked on Ferguson, because Chandler's like a dynamic wrestler where he's like got that kind of springy style. Like, he's just going to spring up from those like takedowns, or I feel like he's going to scramble out of the jiu-jitsu positions a lot better than Ferguson would have, because he's so small and he's so fast. So I feel like I don't see Oliveira winning by a submission on the ground, and I don't really see him winning by knockout. I think I could see him winning a decision, like a hard-fought decision where he keeps Chandler at bay and sort of beats him up over 5 rounds. But I could see Chandler getting on the inside and knocking him out, or dominating him with wrestling and beating him up on the ground and stuff. Like, so I think I'm edging towards Chandler on that one. Although I could see Oliveira winning as well. So it's just a really exciting fight, man.
I think it's another one of them ones where if it's under 2 rounds, if it's going to finish in under 2 rounds, it's going to be Chandler. I think, because I think Chandler could just clip him with one of them bombs.
He could, but I feel like he's also got cardio for days as well. Like, he's such an athlete, so he could win over 5. But I know what you're saying. If you were to pick who was going to win over 5 and over 2 or an early stoppage, you'd probably say Oliveira and Chandler.
Yeah. Kind of an off-topic one. Do you remember what rank Conor was when he fought Dustin in February? Was it February?
I think he was like, I want to say 4. I want to say maybe he was 4, Hooker was 5, Gaethje was like 2, Poirier was... Who was 1 at that point? Was Poirier 1 still? Or Gaethje 1? Gaethje won after the title loss, because you usually won after your title loss, unless he wasn't 1 when he fought him. I can't remember, to be honest. But I think Conor was like 4. I think he was around that. I'm not sure what he is now, to be fair, after that loss. I've not looked at the rankings for a while.
I can easily pull it up. Let's have a look.
Yeah, man.
Let's do this. Because, like, you know what? Like, Conor just tends to screw things up a little bit, doesn't he? Whenever he jumps on, starts doing shit. He's very disruptive, I think. Considering like how little he fights, which you know, either is or isn't his fault, whatever. But
yeah, I mean, he's a massively disruptive force in that division in lots of ways, man. Like, I mean, politically, like, if he wasn't in that division, then Poirier would be fighting for the title for a start.
To be fair, mate, what a night for us to look at the rankings on a random one. Everything's changed, hasn't it? They update the rankings on Tuesday. So men's pound for pound, back at number 1. Your boy John Jones, Kamaru Usman in at number 2. I mean, it's basically the same list as it was before, just without Habib at the top of it. I mean, actually, there are a couple of changes, to be fair. But
who have they got in the top 10 now? Reel it off, because I'm not sure.
I'll go from 10 to 1. So number 10, Justin Gaethje. Number 9, Davison Figueiredo. Number 8, Max Holloway. Number 7, Jan Blachowicz. Number 6, Dustin Poirier. Number 5, Izzy Adesanya. Number 4, Alexander Volkanovski. I always struggle to say that. Number 3, Stipe. Number 2, Usman. And number 1, Bone.
Yeah, okay.
Bones,
I mean, I'd have Poirier above Gaethje right now. But
well, he is.
Oh, did he say where was Poirier?
He's number 6. Gaethje's 10.
Oh, fair enough. No, fair enough. I'm not sure I'd have Gaethje in my top 10 right now. To be honest.
Do you know who else would have Poirier above Gaethje?
The UFC.
Rank, yeah.
I must have like blacked out when you said Poirier. Like, where's my boy, man? Yeah, you love that one, didn't you?
Oh, it's funny, man. But fucking Conor McGregor's creeped back onto the rankings though. On the pound for pound. It's in at number 15 underneath Aljamain Sterling.
Okay.
I mean, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, actually. Like, for me,
Aljo's not on there at the minute.
Aljo's
if he wins the fight,
there, bro. Like, it's not on there. It's not happening.
I think Aljo knows he's not on there. Aljo knows he's not on there. Bless him.
Yeah, Conor's
looking
down
forward
to
that
6.
rematch, though.
Yeah, absolutely, I am, mate. There's a lot of unanswered questions there, so it's gonna be good to see where that lands.
Yeah, for sure.
What was I about to look at, by the way? I was about to look at something. Oh yeah, the lightweight rankings.
Yeah, so Conor's 6, did you say?
Yeah, Conor's 6th right now. Gaethje's number 2. All right, so I mean, like, ideal world for me, I would have had, you know, if Poirier was going to go and chase this Conor fight, which he is, which you can't blame him for, he's a family guy, you know what I mean? But if he's going to go and chase that fight, I would have had Oliveira versus Gaethje, and then have probably Chandler fighting, I don't know, probably the likes of Ferguson, maybe, or even just keep him on ice for a minute until Dustin's ready, and then you have them two. But you know, it kind of fucks everything up with Conor in the mix. To be honest with you, this is what I mean. He's so disruptive, but you can't help but love the guy. But he's so disruptive.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what. I don't think it's a bit of a funny one with Gaethje because it's gone a bit quiet with him. Like, I love Justin Gaethje, by the way. I probably come across like I don't really like him, but I actually really like Justin Gaethje, like as a person and as a fighter.
I feel like he's pissed off right now, to be honest with you. He said that thing a couple of weeks ago where he's like, if Chandler's fighting for the title, I'm never fighting for the UFC again.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
So I feel like he's probably pissed off right now, bro. And to be honest with you, mate, like, could you blame him?
I mean, I don't think he should be fighting for the title, but I can understand why he's pissed off at Chandler fighting for the title.
I think, I think if you're being blunt and you're just kind of being like purist to UFC, I think Gaethje probably has more of a claim than Chandler does, because Chandler's only had that one fight. He's rank 4, but then at the same time, Chandler's got a huge history behind him.
This is the thing, man. It's like he's exactly. It's not like he's a newbie to the sport. Like, he's a vet and he's already a big name. I think the big thing that's pissing a lot of fighters off with Chandler is that he's apparently getting paid more money than they all are as well, which is because Bellator pay their guys more than the UFC do, apparently. So in order to get him across from Bellator, they had to slap him a big fat check on the table.
I mean, to be fair, some of these title fights at the minute are a bit of a joke anyway. Like Masvidal v Usman, that's a bit of a.
It should have been Masvidal and Colby, shouldn't it? And it is. It's like a rarity where Masvidal's not won since he lost to Usman. But I guess the difference between, like, for example, Khabib and Gaethje and Masvidal and Usman is these two things. Gaethje got stopped in the second round. Masvidal went 5 rounds. He got dominated most of the rounds, I'd say, but he was always in the fight. Do you know what I mean? He was always in the fight, and he was on 6 days' notice. Is the second day's thing. So it's like, if you give him the 6 weeks, is it going to be a different fight? I mean, Masvidal did look out of shape in that Usman fight. Like, he looked distinctly not very muscly, and I mean, he was talking about how he had to lose like 30 pounds, which wasn't 30 pounds of muscle. It was obviously like 30 pounds of pizza fat and whatnot. Because I've got the theory of, like, you know how he was like scheduled to fight Usman, and then, well, no, it wasn't scheduled, but they were in talks because he was the guy. It was like the BMF against the champ, and then they didn't do it for whatever reason. I think because Masvidal said they weren't paying him enough, so he was like, well, I'm not going to fight this guy unless you pay me. So he kind of called the bluff, and they were like, no, okay, forget you then. We'll go to Burns, and then they booked the Burns fight, and then he got COVID, so it was like last minute. I think they pretty much gave Masvidal nearer to what he wanted money wise for him to jump in late. Yeah. And then, but what I thought, well, Masvidal kind of almost sacrificed his real opportunity for the belt, because he could have had like an 8-week, 9-week camp coming off all that momentum, took a little bit less money, then been the champ and been like, right, now you got to pay me the big boys. You know what I mean? But he kind of did himself out of that in the fact that he came in on 6 days' notice. And I feel like when he didn't get the fight and it went to Burns, he probably thought like, oh, forget this. I'm eating pizza, I'm drinking, I'm having some time off for a bit. And then obviously put on that like 30 pounds, wasn't training for a few weeks. And then suddenly he's got to cut all of those pounds and he's not really been training. So I don't think we saw the best Masvidal by a long shot against Usman.
No, absolutely not. But do you know what? There were some moments in that fight where he did.
Yeah, he troubled him.
You think to yourself, like, if he had a full camp, would we be seeing more of these moments? And would these moments amount to anything? I mean, like, you can't guarantee anything, because this is Kamaru Usman we're talking about. The guy's an absolute beast, isn't it? But there are some moments in that fight where you think, oof, if he's doing that kind of shit there and rocking him like that on 6 days, what could he do with 2 months? You know what I mean? or 6 weeks or
that's
whatever.
what makes it interesting. I mean, do I think he's necessarily going to beat him because he gets 6 weeks? No, I think I don't know if anyone's going to beat Usman that's on that roster at the minute, other than my instinct is other than Hamzat, because he's someone that's maybe as good at wrestling, if not better. And I think that if you can keep Usman down and smash him on the ground, that's maybe the only way to beat him. If you've got superior technique to him on the ground, and I don't think many people are going to have that. Or the other way to beating him is a mad explosion like Masvidal has in his back pocket, where he just knocks him out clean. And it's like if they fight 100 times, I'm betting that Usman probably wins 80 or 90 times out of those 100 times, but you might get 10 to 20 times when Masvidal just explodes on him and KOs him.
See, I was thinking like down the same kind of route as you. Like I was thinking like 9 out of 10 times, Usman's going to just win and dominate him. But there's going to be that one time when he just does that like flying knee bullshit. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be something magical like that. That's his story, man. Usman is very much like a control fighter. He controls distance, he controls range. He's very good at getting in and out of range very quickly, which is bizarre for such a big guy like him. But I forgot where I was going with that now. Oh yeah, so the only real, I've thought about this a lot, as you can probably tell, but the only real like solution to like such domination and control is chaos, right? And that's kind of what Masvidal brings. It's chaos. You never really know what's going to happen. I mean, even in that first fight, it's like he's got him against the cage. He's stamping on his little toesies or whatever. But something could happen here. You know what I mean? Maz just needs one. He just needs one like inch of faltering, and then that's it. He's going to make you pay. Even down to the point where like he knew that Ben Askren was going to put his face to that side, which is why he led with that knee. He just knew
that stuff. That's just legendary, man. That knee is just legendary.
It's the best thing
Every time you watch it, it's like it gets worse for Askren. Do you know what I mean? Like it looks almost fake, like how he collapses and goes so stiff. It's pretty horrible to watch. Like it's pretty horrible. Do you know what's the worst bit is when he hits him again and again. Yeah. And then he's talking to him when he's stone cold unconscious.
He's like doing that on the floor, isn't he?
Yeah. And he's like, and then he coins one of his like expressions out of it, super necessary.
Yeah, it's super necessary.
Everyone asked him, was that really necessary to do that? And then he was like, super necessary.
Super necessary. Yeah.
This guy's been talking shit at me for like 7-8 weeks, man. Super necessary.
Super. What do you think was a better UFC moment? The Masvidal flying knee or the Buffer 360?
Well, the Buffer 360 is a continuing like thing of beauty, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas the Masvidal's a one-off.
Well, no, because he doesn't do the 360 anymore. Has he done it since?
I don't know.
I don't think I've seen him do it since. He's done some 45s. We've had some 45 degrees out of him, mate.
I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, it's generally the 45 or the 180, isn't it? I don't know how many times he's done the 360. Was it just the once or was it?
Most cards, you'll get at least like 2 or 3 90s out of him, bro.
Yeah, he loves it. Yeah. What's the more impressive? I'm going with Masvidal. I have to say Masvidal. Although as much as I love the Buffer 360.
Okay, so I respect that. I appreciate your opinion. Here's why you're wrong. No, I'm joking. The Buffer 360 though, mate, it's a special thing. I'll go to the grave saying that. We've derailed a lot with UFC. That became like a whole UFC podcast.
I've lost all the viewers that don't like, all the 10 viewers that were watching it because we were talking about anything other than violence.
Yeah, I mean,
but we might have 1 or 2 left that like the UFC.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, by the way, guest appearance after UFC 260. Got Hamad coming on the show.
Yeah, is it a confirmed thing?
Week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I spoke to him. He was down.
I'll be making sure I stay up for that one. I was gutted, man. I was looking forward to that Holland and Brunson fight because there's just like that little. I kind of think he's a bit of an idiot, to be honest with you. The guy inside of me that's like, I really want to watch him talk to those people while they're fighting. I'm sort of like, he's the stupid side of me a little bit, the one who just wants to have a bit of fun and stay up all night. But like fucking, so I did. I tried to stay up in it, and I fell asleep just as the main card was starting. So
that Brunson energy took over you, mate. That's what happens. That Brunson energy double-legged to the ground.
Yeah, man. You know what, bro? Like, there's got to be a certain point where I don't want to get too into the weeds with Kevin Holland here, but there's got to be a certain point where his corner just says to him, like, yo, shut the fuck up.
Go talk.
Fight.
Sit down and shut up and listen.
Like, don't talk to him. He's not your coach. I am. Look at me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was. I found it very disrespectful to his cornerman, and I think he deserved that loss. I think he got above himself, carried away with himself, and also was trying to live up to this character that he'd created for himself, even more so much so he'd forgot about the fight almost. His focus wasn't fully on fighting, it was on entertaining as well. And I think he was a victim of his own success in that way.
It's only entertaining when he starches people.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's just a bit irritating. I mean, even when do you know the first couple of rounds when he was getting like beat up on the ground and he was still talking to him, I was like, fair play, man. You're getting hit with some hard elbows here from Brunson and he's still talking. I was like, fair play to you. When it was like the 4th and 5th round and he was still talking, when he was losing like 4 or 5 rounds to 1 or nothing, I was like, yeah, you should probably. I mean, part of me is like, yeah, fair play. You're still talking, even though you've got battered this whole fight. It's your character. At least you're consistent. Do you know what I mean? I'll give you that. But at the same time, I'm like, as a fan, I'm not enjoying it anymore. I'm just finding it a bit annoying. And now I'm rooting for Brunson to beat you because
I think someone needs to shut you up, innit?
He needs to shut you up. Yeah, because exactly. So yeah, and then in the end, I was like, yeah, well done, Brunson. You kind of outclassed him and showed him what was what. And I hope Brunson gets a good fight now. I mean, I think Kevin Holland will be back, and I think he'll come back better. And I think his coaches will probably tell him a lot of things we've just said there.
They watch,
and he'll come again.
They've been watching our podcast, mate.
Yeah.
They've been watching us, bro.
Hurry.
Yeah, man. No, they've been watching our podcast, bro. That is coaches, dude. They're our biggest fans.
Yeah, every week.
Man, every week. All 2 of them.
Two.
Well, as of right now, all 1 of them. There's only 1 of them uploaded at the minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope Brunson gets a good fight now, like a top 5. Like, give him Costa, man. Costa's not got a fight. Just give Costa Brunson. Everyone else has got a fight right now.
There's some rumblings that Holland might be going to 170.
Yeah.
I think that was what I heard. He might be looking to go to 170, which, to be fair, would make sense because he's pretty skinny for a middleweight, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he weighed in at 183, so I think he can pretty easily cut like 8 pounds, not 8 pounds, 18 pounds. 18 pounds? No, 13 pounds. My math's great. I went from like 175 to like then adding. Yeah, no, that's not good stuff.
It's 183. That's 18. It's at least 2.
I don't know how I came to that conclusion. I don't know what I did there, but I did it.
I just realised I keep fucking rolling out a shot here, mate. I was sat comfortably, and that's not actually great for the shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I've moved all sorts all over the shop during this episode. So
it's like a dog when it's like a dog when he's going to sleep. He's like, I've got to turn around 20 times, and then I'm gonna lay down.
Yeah, tossing and
turning, bro. So next week, Hamad joining UFC 260 recap before. I guess we're kind of like slowly wrapping things up a little bit, but I'd like to get predictions if we can see who takes what. What do you think?
What for next week? Get some predictions.
Yeah, so come back to him a week today. And
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, let's start at the main event because that's the best place to start. So, I feel like every time Ngannou fights, he's the favorite because all he needs to do is catch you clean on the chin and it's probably good night, right?
yeah.
And I feel like Ngannou's improved a lot. And I think there's a potential he could stop the takedowns, potential he could knock Stipe out. He's also going to outweigh him probably by about 30 pounds because I reckon Stipe is about 225, 230 like it was for the Cormier fight, and Ngannou is probably between 250, 260. So part of me says Ngannou, but I feel like I always underrate Stipe, and I feel like I always think the other guy is probably going to beat him, and I kind of feel like Ngannou's going to beat him this time. So because of that, I'm going to say Stipe. I'm backing him for once because he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. At the end of the day, he's incredibly smart in there, great footwork, great all-rounded style, wrestling, good striking. I'm going to go with Stipe, even though I think there's a big chance Ngannou could win. I'm going to go with Stipe.
I think.
How about you?
I think I completely agree with you. I'm backing Stipe 100%. I've got a bit of a problem with this, like Francis has improved loads narrative, because when have we seen it?
Well, exactly. It's one thing. It's one thing putting in. The thing is, his argument is, I've only been doing MMA 6 years or something, and that was 3 years ago. So I've now doubled my experience of my training. So I'm sure he's been drilling wrestling loads in training and trying to, drilling takedown defense, but he's not been doing that against Stipe in a fight. So, and it's one thing. It's like, this is always a thing with Gaethje. It was like Gaethje's got a really good wrestling background, like pedigree, like brilliant, but he doesn't wrestle in MMA. Like, I've never seen him wrestle in MMA. It's the same way, like you could say with Ngannou's maybe practice loads, but when has he ever used wrestling in any of his fights under the lights?
He's got
never.
He's got Usman helping him out with his wrestling
In his
hasn't
corner.
He?
Yeah. Which, brilliant person to have in your corner, and he could conceivably, he could beat Stipe in the first round with a absolute haymaker from hell, or he could just. Man, I mean, that knockout of Rosenstrike.
Yeah,
how clumsy is that? It's the clumsiest knockout I've ever seen in my life.
But
it was effective.
What was it? I was listening to Brendan Schaub, and he was saying, he said it was like Bart Simpson, like windmill punching.
Yeah, it's a bit like almost like Deontay Wilder when he gets wild and does that. But that's him at his most dangerous in a way, because he's just going through a caution to win. But at the same time, I watched some of the highlights of him and Stipe, and he tried to do that to Stipe, and Stipe was just like, "Nah, mate, I'm out of the way."
Stipe ate some shots of him as well.
Yeah, he did.
There's people at the minute who are talking about, like, Stipe's been doing some interviews and stuff recently, and his voice is kind of like a bit. I don't know how to describe it. It's just, it sounds like he's got like
a drunk.
Yeah, just a little bit drunk. Like he sort of gets a bit there as well, like a bit of spit. Like there's some spit trapped somewhere. And there's a lot of people who are talking about, like, whether that's CTE or not. And to be fair, I thought to myself, like, you know what? I'm sure if anyone has been punched by Francis, then they've probably got something wrong with them. You know what I mean? That guy hits so fucking hard.
Is it 96 horsepower, which is the equivalent to a Ford Escort going full speed? Let me just say that for a minute, I don't buy that for a second, because and the actual weight of a car hitting you at night is going to kill you. So it's not the same as it might be the same power on a localized smaller surface. I understand. So it's like his fist is the same as a Escort sized fist coming at you at 96 miles at full speed, which is it's unbelievable. But it's not the way Dana said it is like, it's like getting hit by a Ford Escort at 100 miles an hour, which is not. Let's not. But on a localized level of it's like a wing mirror, because I bet his fist was about the same size as a wing mirror of a Ford Escort hitting you at 100 mile an hour, then probably, yeah, which is a terrifying thought.
Fuck you, a wing mirror.
Because his hands are huge.
Yeah, they're massive, mate. It's scary, bro. He's a scary guy. I thought to myself, yeah, you know what? Like I completely agree with you. I kind of think it's a bit of a strange statistic, you know what I mean? Because I feel like that's if it's completely like free, you know what I mean? If he's completely free to put everything into that punch, yeah, it probably does hit that hard, but he's in the middle of a fucking fight, you know what I mean? He's in range of someone. He can't necessarily get to his full capacity because someone's cutting his range down, you know what I mean? He needs like a full wind up for that shit.
Yeah. I mean, when he hits people, like he hit Overeem or Rosenstrike or Blades twice, I mean, they go down like, you know, hard. I mean, you know, not many people go down like off his. It's like a Mark Hunt kind of like walk off KO. It's that like as soon as they hit, they're gone. But I think it's worse than the Mark Hunts. Yeah, he is the most powerful guy that's ever been in the UFC. I think I've got no reservation with that statement. It's just, has he made the improvements to beat Stipe? Possibly. Is he, you know, I mean, he's not a better mixed martial artist than Stipe, you know, but has he bridged the gap enough that his physical superiority in some aspects is enough with closing the gap a bit and having the power advantage that he's able to win the fight? Quite possibly.
I wonder what's going through like Stipe's head at the minute of sort of, I wonder where his training camps are, because presumably they've got to be working on like, we need this fight to be over 2 rounds, because we've not seen Francis get into that many wars, you know. I think the most recent one was Derek Lewis, was it? I mean, it wasn't even a war, like it was just 5 rounds. It was
the opposite of a war. It was just 3 rounds. It was, I mean, Francis will gas again. I've got no doubts that if you get him past the second round, and especially if you put some pressure on him, he will tire. I think he's it's that much muscle on him. It's hard to.
I was going to say, I bet he struggles to be stood up for more than 5 minutes at a time. You know what I mean? It's like, oh shit, I've got to get down. Yeah. It's got to be hard. He's an absolute
specimen, but he's like, it's like there's always a drawback to every positive. Do you know what I mean? And it's like his positive is that he's immensely powerful. He looks like an Adonis, but how much oxygen do you need to supply all of those ridiculously sized muscles? A hell of a lot. And Stipe has, I think, got lighter specifically because he knows he's fighting these big guys that run out of steam fast. He wants to dodge them and then use his sort of superior gas tank to beat them down. So I think it wouldn't be shocking if Ngannou just landed a massive punch and knocked him out. Everyone knows that's a possibility, but at the same time, no, Stipe is the much better mixed martial artist.
Yeah,
so you kind of hope he's going to win.
This is why it's such an interesting fight. But I mean, like, how many of these like knockouts that Francis has have actually looked like spectacular? Because I'm thinking back, and there was maybe the Dos Santos one, or is it
quite a lot of them? To be honest, they always look terrifying. I mean, the most spectacular one was
Overeem, right?
The uppercut.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like that's what I'm saying. Is it? Because you know, I'm trying to replay the video that I watched in my head of like, you know, where they do like the top fucking however many knockouts of this guy. So I'm trying to replay that in my head, and I'm thinking back, and I'm like, the only one that really showed any like finesse and like wasn't
he's a
just
clumsy fighter, man.
Yeah.
The thing is, when he's in the gym, you see that he's technically good. He's got some good technical boxing skills, right? But as soon as he gets into the cage, I feel like that all almost goes out the window, and he just becomes wild again, and he just wants to take your head off.
Completely different environment, in it. So I guess it's the pressure and the excitement, the threat coming at you. But this is what I mean.
He's
Like,
got so much confidence in his power as well. Like he believes all he's got to do is just hit you clean once, and it can be done in 30 seconds. So he kind of just wants to go in there and smash everybody early and
but
get
then
an
this
early
is,
bath.
but we've seen Stipe knock people out moving backwards, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
we have. Yeah,
this
yeah,
is this is what I
ridiculous.
mean. Like I keep coming back to the same thought, which is that yeah, Francis could knock him out, but he's probably not gonna. I don't think
Yeah,
he's gonna, mate. I don't think he's gonna do it. I don't.
I mean, we had 5 rounds of it last time and it didn't happen. And I mean, out of the 2 fights that we can see conceivably get past this, I'd personally much rather see Stipe against John Jones than Ngannou against John Jones.
I'd like to
Uh,
see. I'd like to see Stipe beat Francis. I'd like to see Stipe beat John Jones, and then I'd like to see Stipe retire at that point. I think that would be a good spot for him to be like, just
I'm the GOAT.
yeah, just fucking
Yeah.
mic drop. You know what I mean? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I think
It's interesting, man. Yeah, like, thing is, I mean, if Ngannou does win, I'd still love to see Ngannou Jones, don't get me wrong. But I think legacy wise, like if you've got the best heavyweight of all time against the best light heavyweight of all time, whether Jones beats him and it's like they pass the torch, I'd rather it be like the greatest light heavyweight of all time takes the torch off him. It's a better sort of way to end his reign. Is like, do you know what I mean? But at the same time, if you get beat by Ngannou, that's no shame to anyone because he could knock down a giraffe with an uppercut. Do you know what I mean?
I think
Or an elephant, probably.
I think Dana White got it wrong. He was like, oh, he hits as hard as a Ford Fiesta at full speed. I think what he actually meant to say is this man is literally a Ford Fiesta. Literally a
Yeah.
Ford Fiesta.
Yeah. What the right? So we've spent loads of time on the prediction of that.
Oh, to be honest with you,
other
mate, no,
fights we've now got?
that's the only other one. That's really the only one I cared about, to be honest with you.
So I've got 2 more fights that I like on that. I mean, Ortega was I'm so disappointed we haven't got Ortega
Yeah,
Volkanovski.
that's it.
Luque and Woodley. Now,
Yeah, I don't care.
actually, I do. I'm religious in this psychologically because we've got Woodley, who, let's not forget, 3 fights ago was bordering on one of the best welterweights of all time. We're talking about if he wins a couple more, then he's knocking on GSP's door. I mean, he was looking unbeatable. He was like the Usman, like you can't beat Woodley. He's a unbelievable fighter. Then he loses to Usman, loses to Burns, and loses to Colby. So he's lost 3 times since then, and he's lost against 3 title challengers or champions. So he's been bettered by guys that are very good. We've now got him against Luque, who I'm a big fan of Luque personally. He's a very good fighter.
Savage, mate.
But is he ever gonna win a title? Probably not. So it's kind of like a yardstick of like, I think Luque is probably top 10 to top 5 guy. Like he's a very good fighter. He's a savage, but he's probably never gonna win a title. If Woodley gets beaten by him, then thing is, it's sad to say that he maybe should consider retiring them because Luque is a brilliant fighter, and that's kind of like talking down on him. But it is definitely like losing to Colby or to Burns or Usman is like fair enough. They're all solidified top 5 guys, but Luque's been sort of top 15, top 10, just moved into the top 10 not too long ago. If he loses to him, it's like, or do you know what it is? If Woodley puts it all on the line and gets beaten by the better man and the better on the night, it's like, well, Luque is a very good fighter. Fine, let's keep fighting. But if he just doesn't throw punches again, it's like he's still physically a beast. But if he's mentally gone and he's not willing to trade leather anymore, or hasn't got the confidence in himself to throw shots, then that's when he needs to retire. Because at that point, what's the point being there?
I mean, that's the thing that gets me. Like his last couple of fights, he's just looked so like lackadaisical. You know what I mean? Like getting people up against the fucking fence and like staring up at the clock. And I'm like,
he just
come on,
looks
man.
scared in there.
Just pretend to want it for a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's weird. Almost like he just turned up for a payday. Like,
yeah,
like he's bet on himself to lose. Like, it's a weird one.
I wonder how many fights he's got left on his contract.
Yeah, and he was just playing it out. I mean, if he keeps on losing, the UFC will get rid of him anyway. But
I think honestly that's probably what's going to happen soon because he's one of those. Is he one of those last remaining guys from Strikeforce?
I think he was in Strikeforce, but he's not that old. He's only like, I think
Is
he's
that
like the
34,
like
35, is he?
yeah, but he's not like he's on the good side of 30. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not 36, 37. He's not like a real old vet. I mean, and he was champ like a year or two ago. Like Usman's not been champ for that long. It's like a couple of years, maybe, is it? So I feel like physically he's got a lot left in the tank. It's just whether mentally he has. So I'm interested to see the outcome of that because I mean I like Luke as a fighter anyway. I'm always interested to see his fights, and when Woodley's involved, I'm always intrigued because I think he's an interesting person to look at psychologically.
So the reason I wasn't really interested is because I kind of already know what's going to happen. I just feel like Woodley's going to be lazy for 3 rounds, and that's it.
And Luke is just going to leg kick him and kickbox his head off.
Yeah,
that
pretty
probably
much.
it might happen.
But
what if Woodley comes out and he's a new fighter and he just lays him out in the first 10
then
seconds?
I'm going to put like as many bets on as I can, bro. Like on the in-play shit. I'm going to try and get as many bets on as I can before it like goes to normal. Like, you know, they put his odds up or something. If he comes out and he's swinging for the fences and he's throwing fucking bombs, bro, I'll be sat on the edge of my seat, gassed. I'll be so happy because I love Woodley, man. I love that, like, such a threat of a human being. Like, it's such a threat.
Unbelievable. He's a monster of a man.
I miss them days, bro. But to be fair, like it all comes to an end, mate. They all get older. They all take a few too many blows. Like they all get the fucking rib cracked by Colby or whatever. Like,
do you know with Tyron though? Like he was scared of throwing punches when he was champion. He was always fighting on the back foot against the fence. When he was interesting to watch is when he was on his title, like rise to get to the title. That's when he was like a killer. It'd be great to see him end his career like that, even if he takes some more losses, but just has some good fights. But I'm not sure it's going to happen.
Nah.
Last fight to talk about is Screech O'Malley and Thomas Almeida. he is, isn't he? I feel like he should have Zach in his corner.
fucking AC Slater there, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. Saved by the bell at the end of the round.
When I get up in the morning.
I love that show, man.
It's all right. Oh, that's a banger, mate.
Do you know what's mad? You know, with O'Malley, like I liked him specifically because he looked like Screech, and I was like, it's quite cool to see like nerdy guys haven't really got like a mixed back, even like a massive background in mixed martial arts. He just kind of like learned it on the fly, went to an MMA gym and watched loads of videos of guys and got really good. Like technically, he's a really good fighter to watch. I like watching him as a fighter. It's just the things he says, man. It's
the same thing with Kevin Holland, really, where it's like the things that he says, they're on, you know, you can say the same for any of the shit talking guys like Colby, Masvidal, Connor. It's only really entertaining when they're starching guys, right?
Yeah, but even then, it's like you think he's a bit tasteless, right? So there's two things that I've seen recently that have annoyed me about him. So the first thing is he said, 1 week until I put my undefeated record on the line. And I'm like, no, you got beat by Vera. Yes, it was a very weird fight, but he kicked you with a clean shot that was a legal shot in your peripheral nerve or whatever it's called, and it disabled your leg. So yes, it was a weird one. It's probably not going to happen too many other times. And maybe if that hadn't happened, maybe you would have won, or maybe you wouldn't. Right. But the fact is that did happen. It did disable you. You then ended up on the ground and he finished you, and it was a legit loss. So whether it was like, I know if mentally he's going, I'm still undefeated mentally, I get that, but putting it out there into the world like I'm still undefeated, it's like, no, you're not. Like that's just a silly remark to be made.
Yeah, there's literally footage of you losing. Do you get it? Do you get it? Footage.
Go on. Very good.
Come on.
I like it. It's nearly as good as the 10 of mixing 2 5s as listening to 10.
I forgot about that. I'm gonna use that joke liberally. Anyway, carry on.
And I also saw another post from where we had like a picture of him and one of the guy Eddie Wineland, that he knocked out pretty cold a couple of fights ago. He's got an excellent dad tash, by the way. I like that guy.
Can't fault a dad
and
tash, mate.
I know. Yours is growing back now. You've got the beard to accompany it.
Yeah.
But I thought he's like the guy to look up to, man. He's got like the twisty bits and stuff.
Yeah, that's where I want to get to at some point, but I always accidentally shave too much off. I don't like when it goes over my lip. You know what I mean? When I can feel it in between my teeth, I'm like,
oh, that's horrible. You have to trim it back. Like keep the length in that, but trim it back. Anyway, he had a post up of like 1 week or whatever till Thomas lays unconscious, and it's got a picture of him like with Eddie Wineland or whatever it's called laying behind him unconscious on the floor. I'm like, come on, man, that's just tasteless, man. It's just tasteless. Like,
I don't really pay any attention to Sean O'Malley, to be honest with you. I enjoy watching him fight, but just he just talks so much like it's not even like funny to me. You know what I mean? It's
no, he's not good at
me.
shit talking. He's not like got charisma with it. He just comes across as like smarmy and untasteful.
I don't really know too much about him, to be honest with you. I know I even listened to like a podcast with him on at one point. It was one of Theo Von's podcasts.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I'm annoyed because I think initially I kind of liked him and he's let me down. Do you know what I mean? Like as a fan, he's let me down. And I think, no, you're what I hoped you weren't going to be. Do you know what I mean? I gave you the benefit of the doubt, and you are my like worst fears of the character that you play. Or I think it's just kind of who he is. Just not a particularly nice guy, but whatever.
But I think he's got a hard fight ahead of him in Almeida.
Almeida's tough, man. He's a vet. He's tough. He's been in there a lot of times, and he's well rounded. And I think that's a very tough fight for him.
I'd be very, very surprised if he could pull off a win there.
I would. I mean, he might come and shock some people and be like, "Yeah, I'm still here. Forgot about me." Blah blah blah. But I don't know, man. Almeida's good everywhere. So
I always feel it's worth pointing out because people who aren't necessarily fans of UFC. I mean, like to be clear, like you're more of a fan of it than I am. I think that's evident. You're a lot more knowledgeable on it. But like I like it. I'm arguably more of a casual fan. I mean, I'm not because I watch it every week. But whatever. Be that as it may, there's people who don't know anything about it. Who like they're Conor fans, right? You know what I mean? Like there's UFC fans and there's Conor fans and there's UFC fans and there's Izzy fans or whatever. So they'll ask me like, "Oh, what do I think is going to happen in this fight?" And I'll say like, for example, I think Stipe is probably going to win against Francis. Francis could, he could knock him out, but Stipe is probably going to do it. But I always say, when you had Conor versus Dustin go down the way that it did, like I can't predict anything anymore. You know what I mean? Like, because I didn't
watch it though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's the beautiful thing about it. It's not like
you never really know what's going to happen.
You never know what's going to happen. Like anything can fucking happen. Like even look at the best example is bloody Jan v Sterling the other week. Like that was going the way that it was going to go up until that knee was thrown. Like it.
Yeah.
I knew the second that Sterling ran out there and started throwing all that wild shit, I was like, he's going to get tired and Jan's going to absolutely destroy him. And that's what was happening.
See, I'll be honest, when I was watching it, I was thinking, oh my God, Sterling is overwhelming him. I'm not sure if Jan's going to be able to pull through this. And then I'm like, Jan's pulling through this. Now Sterling's getting tired. Yeah, this is not going to end well for Sterling.
Well, it was when I saw his mouth wide open at the end of the first round. I was like, "Oh, that's not
I mean, it's all like the stance switching he does and all the crazy movements he does, man. It's a tiring way to fight."
He was going on out there like bloody, what's his name, Eddie Gordo.
Yeah.
Fucking Eddie Gordo from Tekken, mate.
From Tekken, you just love that game, man.
Why have they not made a good Tekken movie? They're doing that Mortal Kombat one. Looks pretty cool.
It's gonna be terrible, I think.
It's gonna be terrible, but you'll still watch it. You'll still watch it and enjoy it. You probably will.
Probably won't. I probably won't. I mean,
It's going to be the best film ever.
It looks just so daft. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I kind of like daft, and I can kind of go, but it's like, I think it's if a film was trying to be serious, but it's daft, I'm not sure if I want to get on board with it. I don't know, man. I might watch it at one point, but I'm not. I watched it because it's always like a UFC trailer, isn't it? Which is obviously good marketing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not. This isn't push my buttons.
I probably want to like wrap things up in a second because I've got to be up for work in the morning. But
Same. Yeah.
I'll leave you with this thought, and maybe we can expand on this next week. There's a difference between a bad movie and a boring movie, and the difference is that a boring movie is worse.
That's interesting. That's definitely something to debate. You could definitely argue the way. So yeah, we'll discuss that next time.
Enjoy sitting with that one for a little bit. Have you got anything that you want to leave us on at all, or have you spoken?
I have spoken.
Yeah, spoken. I said everything you needed to say.
Yeah, if we can catch up on other stuff next time.
Yeah. Well, just. Sorry, I thought someone was on the fucking back front door then. Yeah, so next week it's the UFC 260 recap featuring a man like Hamad. And then, yeah, I guess after that.
Right, I think we're gonna have Daniel Skeen on.
Yeah.
Skeeny's gonna come on as well as a guest.
Young Skeena. I've not spoken to him in years, mate. So that'll be nice.
He's a good lad.
And then we'll hopefully be getting shit on Spotify. So if there are people that are watching this and want audio, then I'm trying to sort it out when I get a spare second. Yeah. Sponsor us. No, I'm joking. but don't worry.
Oh, we're going on down there. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Oh, yeah. Fucking hell. Like and subscribe.
Here.
Yeah.
Ding,
ding. Press the bell. Nah, don't. You know what? I'd say this. Do whatever you want to do.
Absolutely.
Easy. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Easy.
All the bloody best. Right, on that note, as we're sucking our water from our sports drinks, say cheers and all the bloody best.
Cheers and all the bloody best. До свидания.
Indeed.